Okay, we are gonna take the working yarn off the stitch holder and break it, because we're gonna now change to the primary body color again. So in the last step of the last stitch, we're going to pull up a loop of the primary body color. Okay, so we're going to skip 17 stitches, and we're going to leave those to the side and just ignore them while we make this first leg. So I'm counting my way around for 17 stitches, ignoring that old stitch marker. I'm going to insert my hook in the back loop only of that stitch, and I'm going to make a slip stitch and tighten it down. And then working in the back loops until I get back to that slip stitch, I'm going to slip stitch in each stitch around. So you're going to have 13 slip stitches by the time you're done with this. And again, they're worked in the back loops only. So again, we're making like a tidy color change basically. Okay. In the next stitch, we're going to work in the back loops again. And this time we're going to start with a decrease. When you're working in the back loops, it's much easier to just do a regular decrease than an invisible decrease. So that means pull up a loop, insert the stitch in the next back loop, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So there's a decrease, and then 11 single crochets. So we've reduced down to 12 stitches. In the next round, we're going to single crochet 5, do a decrease, and single crochet 5. So we'll be down to 11 stitches by the end of the round. You can tuck your tails in at this point. This is single crochet 5. Decrease or invisible decrease, and then single crochet 5. Okay. In this round, we're going to single crochet 9 and decrease in the last 2 stitches. If you're doing that math, that'll bring us down to 10 stitches. In round 5, we're going to single crochet 4, decrease, and single crochet 4. So that's going to bring us down to 9 stitches. In the next 4 rounds, which is round 6 through 9, we're going to single crochet 9. So just single crocheting all the way around each round. If you struggle to work in these tight rounds, you can see that you're not alone. Okay, now you can break the yarn, leave the tail, but you don't need to worry about stuffing or weaving in at this point. Just let that leg be. Now we're going to count over to find the place to join the second leg. We're going to start with the back of the body facing us. And you're going to count the first 3 unused stitches over. And that 3rd stitch is going to be where you join your second leg. So stick your hook through that stitch, through the back loop of that stitch. I made a slip knot to join. So stick the hook through the back loop. Make a slip stitch in that stitch. Then you're going to skip 2 stitches on the back of the body and 2 stitches on the front of the body. Put the hook through the back loop of the next stitch on the front of the body and make a slip stitch. Can be a little awkward. But it's okay, you can tighten it. And then continue slip stitching in each of the back loops around. And again, you're going to end up with 13 slip stitches in the primary body color. I made kind of a mess in my join. So rather than undoing it all, I just made a slip stitch around all that and ignored that mess. Now in the next round, in round 2, we're going to work through the back of the back loops only again, and this time we're going to start with a decrease. And then we're going to single crochet 11. So we're automatically reducing to 12 stitches. In fact, leg 2 has worked just like leg 1 after that first round. So each round we're decreasing by 1 stitch, staggering from the beginning of the round to the middle of the round to the end of the round to the middle of the round until we get down to 9 stitches, and then we have 4 rounds of single crochets. You can see me really struggling. This must have been the end of the day. Pulling it all out. Pulling up a loop. This is attempt the second. This time I'm not starting with a slip stitch. I'm pulling up a loop in that 3rd stitch at the back of the body. I'm skipping 2 stitches on the back of the body, 2 stitches on the front of the body, and then I'm beginning my slip stitches around. And again, end up with 13 slip stitches worked in back loops only. The final, if you pull up a loop rather than starting with a slip knot, then you have to work your final slip stitch in the stitch you pulled up your loop in. Then working in back loops only. Remember, this is round 2 again. We're going to make 1 decrease. And then we're going to make 11 single crochets. All of this is in back loops only. The amount of struggling I'm doing in this section makes this look incredibly hard. It is not that hard. It's a little fiddly because you're making tight little rounds, but it's not nearly as hard as I'm making it look. So don't be discouraged by what you see. Okay, so in this round we single crochet 5, decrease, and single crochet 5. which brings us down to 11 single crochets. Shoving tails in to get them out of the way. In the next round, we're going to single crochet 9 and then decrease. And that is going to bring us down to 10 single crochets. In round 5, we're going to single crochet 4, decrease, which is what you're seeing right here, and then single crochet 4, and that's our last decrease round. And then, as you probably remember, we have 4 rounds of single crochets. Okay, break the yarn. So now you have both legs. They're empty, but you have them both. Barb looks real cute, like she's in a little swimsuit. There is the hole between the crotch, or between the legs. You can add a little bit more stuffing to her torso through that hole right now. I want her to be fairly firm. You don't have to go crazy, but I want her to be pretty snug. This is a much safer tool than your scissors. Okay, now we're going to take a piece of the dress color yarn, put it on a tapestry needle, and we're going to sew. So you start by basically locking that yarn in. And then you're going to come through the front of the stitches between the legs, and you're just going to whip stitch that space between the legs closed. You want it to be pretty snug because you don't want to see stuffing through there, and you want it to be pretty tight and tidy. If you have like little threads of stuffing peeking out, you can use tweezers later on to clean up that little area. I had that starting tail of the ending tail of the yellow, and I accidentally pulled it out, so I'm just going to send it back into the body. And I'm going to use it to lock that other thread in. Plug that knot into the inside to keep it snug. Trim those tails. So now we have a Barb whose legs aren't stuffed, but her crotch is, so that's great. One box checked. Now we're going to stuff her legs, and again, we'll stuff these fairly firmly. Wooden chopstick is a great tool for stuffing Barb legs. Okay, so we got a pretty firm, well-stuffed leg. She's already looking really cute. Let's stuff that other leg. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine to have appendages that are like not stuffed to the same firmness. So I always try to make them match as much as possible. Not everybody is as uptight as I am, so you can choose to stuff however you prefer. Okay, now we're going to put the finishing tail onto a tapestry needle, and we're going to do something I call drawing closed. I don't know if it actually has a name, but it's a pretty common practice for amigurumi, and basically it's when you have a little hole you want closed, You take the yarn tail and you thread it through the front loop only of each stitch from the bottom to the top. And then once you've done that through every single stitch on the edge of the hole, you can pull that yarn tail and it'll cinch down and close the hole. Then insert the needle back through the center of that hole, pull it snug, and weave in the yarn tail as you would. And that hole's now closed up pretty nice and tidy. And trim the tail once you've got it woven in pretty well. So you're going to repeat that on the other leg. And you can add a little bit more stuffing if you feel like you didn't get quite enough in. I will say this, once you draw that little hole closed, it is a bit of a pain to open back up. So you want to make sure that you're happy with the amount of stuffing you have before you close that down. Now we'll leave this yarn tail in. And trim. And we have one last straggling yarn tail that we'll just weave in real quick. And then we'll have Barb's completed body, and we can move on to the next step. And there she is! Your beautiful Barb is over halfway done. Ta-da!